Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest today is Nick Shepherd Fellows. Nick recently was advised by Alison Parry. Alison is a partner within JMW's contested wills and probate team. So, Nick, nice to have you on the Inside Man. Just wonder if you can give me an idea of what happened in your case, please.
Good to be here. So just to give you a very quick surface level idea of what went on in the case, shortly after my grandmother's death, my mother and I were the beneficiaries of the estate, and my auntie was my grandmother's other daughter, who had been left in a memorandum of the will just the jewellery rather than a split of the house, due to the fact that myself and my mother frankly didn't have very much left to go on, and my auntie had plenty to keep her going. So my grandmother left the house to myself and my mother. By the time that the claim was initiated, it wasn't realistically my auntie doing it. It was in her name, but through her litigation friend, her husband, and my uncle. He brought a claim in her name to try and take the family home from over myself and my brother's heads. My mother, by this point, was passing away. He actually initiated the claim whilst she was terminally ill with cancer. In fact, just 6 weeks before she passed away. At the time, she'd just been through a very difficult divorce. At the time, we didn't know how to respond to the claim, and obviously we were very, very tied up with my mother's care and trying desperately to save her life, and it failed, and she passed away in April of 2019. Around which time, luckily, a family friend of mine sort of picked up the pieces as I was grieving and helped direct me toward Alison, who has then helped me to deal with this claim against the estate, because the estate, realistically, after the divorce was settled, after my mother passed away, it left me and my brother with the family home that my grandmother had left us and enough savings to get by for a while. And not a great deal else.
So can I just ask, Nick, I mean, you describe a very, very difficult time in your life there. What was it like to work with Alison and the team at JMW Solicitors?
I think the best thing I can say is that it was really easy to work with Alison. She kept me updated on everything and made sure that I was fully aware of what was going on, but not just aware of the things that were happening, but also of potential consequences, of directions that we could move in, made sure to give me every option at every stage, made sure that I fully understood the process. Alison made it very, very simple to understand sometimes the quite difficult bits of the process. Because I could have spent all the time I wanted reading up on the letter of the law, but there's no way that I could have had Alison's level of expertise of the process. And when the claimant solicitors were chasing for information that to me sometimes seemed unreasonable, but then it turned out that it was standard procedure. So I would then, it's like, rather than fighting something that was standard procedure and being later seen as unreasonable, Alison told me where it was reasonable to do that.
Nick, you mentioned that it's been a difficult time and the family home, and you mentioned your brother as well. Can you give me an idea of what the outcome means to you and your brother?
The biggest thing is, as I've said, we have needed the time and space to recover from the massive grief, because we were incredibly close to both our grandmother and our mother. When my grandmother was ill in the last few years of her life, I was her carer. My brother and I have always lived literally a mile down the road from her house since we were born, and we've been here most days. This family home, we had to lose our childhood home in the divorce just prior to it, so we'd started to lose the connections to our family already, and that sort of this home, this family home that my mother lived in since she was 8 years old, and my grandmother moved into in the 1960s. So obviously I've known this home all my life, and it's sort of the stable rock in my life. And in my brother's, and being able to keep that has let us have that connection to our family and given us that layer of stability, and has definitely helped us keep a very, very emotionally difficult time in Czech, and it will now, the security, because that's been one of the big factors of the case, is the insecurity of the possibility that we might lose our family home, lose the last connection we have to our mother and our grandmother, has been such an enormous strain on us. And now having that security that we have our home, we have some savings to get by on, we can get on with our futures. The fact that we can now move on and have a life for a change, rather than have a life that is dominated by cancer or by grief or by this case, which, as I've said, has absolutely dominated much of the last couple of years, that it's such an enormous thing to be able to move on and have a life. And I think that really is what it means to both of us, is the capacity to get our lives back.
I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.